Ryan Blackburn joins the show to talk about where the Nuggets are, and I try and pull him out of being so depressed. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. Joined today, not by Adam Mares, who is on vacation, but instead by editor-in-chief over at DenverStiffs.com, host of the Pickaxe and Roll podcast, Nuggets Eeyore extraordinaire, Ryan Blackburn. Ryan, how are you? We are not talking about the All-Star events tonight, by the way. We're recording this on Saturday. We're not doing it. That's the thing we're not going to do.
It's a great thing because I didn't watch All-Star Saturday.
Good.
I decided that I could better use my time somewhere else and just like, hey, let me get the mind right. Let me get the apartment in order. And that was just a way better decision for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it because it was awful and there's nothing really Nuggets angled on it. I will start with this question. Bones Highland, fun performance in the Rising Stars game. Is there anybody on the Nuggets roster that you can see winning a Saturday night event anywhere down the line? Could MPJ win 3-point contest? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think given that we just saw Cat win the 3-point contest, like you can see a big man now winning it. And Porter, he's got a little bit more jump on the shots. I got a little bit more lift, I guess, than somebody like Cat. But I still think that when Porter gets hot, he's one of the best shooters in the league, bar none. And whether that translates to a contest, I don't know. But he'll have an opportunity throughout his career, I think, in order to get there. And so we'll just have to see whether he can make enough shots in the regular season to qualify.
Do you think that Nikola Jokic will get points tomorrow? Like, do you think that he will? How do you think Joker's going to do in this All-Star game?
He actually spoke about this in an interview earlier today. He's like, okay, the one thing I want to do, I want to get one basket or see the ball go through the net once, and then he just jokes around the rest of the time. So I do think he'll score once, maybe even twice. He might even try to put the basket in the hoop in the basket twice if he wants to get wild. But he's just going to be joking around. He's going to do his normal thing, and he'll leave the scoring to the folks that really want to showcase their skills that way. But he doesn't care, and that's one of the endearing things about him is he's just out there having fun.
Yeah, I don't think it would be cooler if Nikola Jokic was like, I really want to score 40 in an All-Star game. So.
I think one of the things that we've seen from these events and like just this weekend in general is I feel like the most endearing people are the ones that either take it the least seriously or at least are the most wholesome about it. And you see all these stories that people are really lifting up right now. Scotty Barnes had a really tough time in the actual skills and the Rising Stars contest and whatnot, but there's a video floating around there of him hugging Tyrese Maxey and just like smiling through it all. And I think people are more driven towards those folks at this kind of event rather than the ones that are like, I'm gonna win the event. I'm really taking it to you.
In the comments, Aaron Esquivel says, need Jokic versus Embiid for the All-Star game.
Only if he plays.
It wouldn't shock me if Embiid got the ball and Jokic was guarding him and Embiid got super serious and tried to like go for a highlight dunk. Like, I wouldn't be surprised by that. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Embiid was like, I'm gonna dunk on you in the All-Star. Like, that sounds like a very Embiid thing to do.
There will be some storylines about that if it does happen, and you know how this goes. Like he's gonna put himself on the map. He's gonna do what he can, or maybe he won't. Maybe this is a situation where he's just gonna hang out and chill. But it doesn't seem like he's wired that way. Embiid is, and we'll just have to see how they go at it. But I do think we'll get a couple post matchups, and I think that Jokic will try to score on Embiid. Like if that's the one bucket that he gets, he'll probably try to be that one.
Yeah, I can see that. I can also see him like shooting a 35-foot three. That would be very.
That'd be cool.
Very Joker-like. Okay, so my next question for you in this first segment, guys, we're rolling through All-Star conversation. How many All-Star appearances will the Nuggets have in the next 4 years?
The Nuggets have in the next 4 years. Okay, so I'm going to assume that Jokic is there the entire time, that he signs the Supermax, and so you can pencil in 4 right there. I feel like that's pretty simple. Between Murray, Porter, outside shot at Gordon, I can't imagine an outside shot at Bones Highland if he pops. I'm going to go, you said in the next 4 years, I'm going to go 6. I'm going to go 1 or 2 for Murray and 0 or 1, maybe 1 or 2 for Porter. And I don't think it's going to be consistent. I think that maybe one of them, like you get 1 from one from the other in various years when they play well. But for the most part, it's going to be Yoke, and we'll just have to see where the others come in. But I think 6 feels pretty good.
I'll go with 4. I think that there's a good possibility Jokic will have 1 year where he's hurt, so that knocks off 1 year. Yeah. And then after that, there's like a 50-50 chance that Porter or Murray get 1 over the next couple of years. So would really like, it's very unfortunate that Murray's injury occurred in general. It's also unfortunate because like you just would really like to see him finally get into an All-Star game. Just would be good to, and also it'd just be good to see him have that kind of a season. Like he needs to have like a breakthrough regular season that's got some consistency to it. It would be good.
Yeah, one of the reasons why you want him back this year, if you can, is just so he can get his legs under him, and then maybe have a full season next year where he can hit the ground running as opposed to try to work through some of those struggles. So hopefully we get that. Hopefully that's something that happens, but you never know. Like until he actually steps on the court again, then we're just not going to know. We're going to have a lot of questions.
Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk about that's a good segue into let's talk about Jamal, and we'll get into the details on Jamal's future here when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, football might be over this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. For all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. Not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for making this part of your day. Ryan Blackburn has been kind enough to join us on the special weekend edition following All-Star Saturday night, which we're not going to talk about because it was horrific. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. It's got nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available on all platforms.
Matt, I wanted to take this time to read the comment section that we're getting here. Hurricane Teabag says, Matt is just stomping everyone in the handsome department. Morris was a no contest. Ryan trying to give him a run, but Matt just mollywopped him. I think it's really, really unfortunate that you had to resort to a burner in order to prop yourself up like that, Matt. Like it stands on your own 2 feet, man. Come on.
I'm never gonna do, especially not when I'm rocking the neck beard the way that I am. I haven't gotten around to shaving the neck, so I got a full Orton going on, and it's not a great look. So I'm not necessarily looking. It's
all-star break. Just gotta live, gotta let live and let go. It's okay.
Let it all hang out. I'm gonna grow a mullet next. So with Jamal, I'm of the mindset that we'll probably get an update sometime this week. If we don't, I'm gonna be knocking on various doors, being like, "Hey, just would like to know if he's gonna start contact or not." I still think first or second week in March is pretty not insane to think about. I think his ramp up period will be pretty aggressive. Where are you at on Jamal? Do you, as the #1 Jamal fan amongst all Nuggets media, where are you at with wanting to see him back? What are your thoughts on, his recovery and timeline? Where are you at on the Jamal questions?
Yeah, I want to see him back first and foremost. Like I think this team is more fun and more potent when he's out there. And despite the fact that they've developed some rhythm over the course of these past few weeks, I feel like he is the key that kind of unlocks the ceiling when you have the two-man game that rolls out there over the course of 2, 3, 4 quarters of a playoff game. But I do think that the longer we wait before hearing something about an update of sorts, the more concerned I am that things are just being a little bit more delayed than I think a lot of people had hoped for internally. Um, my expectation, kind of like you said, I think first or second week of March is still probably the target date. Uh, but the longer we don't hear an update is more when I will continue to question: are they putting this off? Are they worried about him when he comes back? Is he just not ready? And if he's not ready, then that's a question mark, because if he comes back second week of March, that gives him about a month before the ramp up for the season. Clay Thompson has been ramping up for a month and he looks good now. I think that that's important when talking about playoff ramp ups and getting ready for playoff basketball.
Yeah, I think it's tough, right? Because the playoffs begin. The play-in starts on April 10th, and you've got until that's the last day of the regular season, so it's actually the 12th. You've got till the 16th. So I would say like they got to get it done by the 16th. You need a month, and I think he's okay. I think he's okay if it's a month. If it's like, the problem though is like you get to the end of March and it's 2 weeks. If it's like 10 days of action, because that's the other thing is the playoffs outright, not the play-in, but the playoffs begin on the 16th. But the last day of the season is the 10th. And you got to get him enough games, and you got to get him enough games where it's like worth it for him to play in, to be like, you can't be like, okay, we're going to throw him out for 35 minutes and Joker's not going to, they might do that, but you want to get minutes with him and Joker to get that chemistry back, all those type of things. Is there a date where you would just be like, if he can't be back by this point, I don't want to see him back this season?
No, I don't think so. I think that no matter what, I feel like he could impact the game. I feel like he could impact playoff basketball. And whether that's for a 10-minute stretch or a 15-minute stretch or a 25-minute stretch throughout a game, I tend to think that the team is better when he's out there. And you want to protect guys, and I understand that you want to give them as long of a runway as possible in these situations. And so if it is a player safety thing, then no, I would hold him out. But if the team medically clears him and he feels good, and it really is just more of a tactical thing at that point, then I wouldn't be as concerned, because you could just plug him into the bench lineup, keep Monte in the starting unit, and just have him replace either Facu's or Bones Highland's minutes, and I think you could still get a reasonable upgrade there.
Wow, wanting an injured player to take Facu's place. How much do you hate him, Ryan? I do want to applaud you for taking. It's weird to me that you've taken more heat over the Facu stuff than I have. That's quite frankly confusing. Although I think half of the Facu burners might be Adam. Hey, that's not here.
I think it might be closer to 60% or so. Adam's just he's on board for the Facu stand-up.
MPJ, look, the last time I asked about this, here's what happened. I asked about it in like January. I was like, is there any chance you guys are going to bring him back? And I literally got asked the question from a source of, why would we do that? Like, it's just, that doesn't make any sense, like with where he's at. And then I asked about it a month later, and it's like, well, I don't know, man. I guess part of the thing though with Porter is, if he's going to get re-injured, he's going to get re-injured. I'm not sure you can avoid it. Like, I'm not sure that like not playing him this year increases or decreases the risks of him being injured again with where that back is at, Yeah. Where are you at with Porter in this whole process?
I'm a lot more disconnected from that situation, just because I feel like it's so much more difficult to evaluate exactly what he has and what the ramifications are if he were to get re-injured again. I assume that it's a red flag, just triple red flag kind of situation where, hey, if he injures it again, he's done. But I don't know, man. Like, he signed this max contract in the offseason, and the Nuggets are absolutely committed to him for at least the next 4 years. I think they've got a partial guarantee in the fifth. beyond this one. And when you I think you've got to take the long-term view on him specifically, just because he hasn't had 100 games, or it's like lot fewer games in his overall tenure at the NBA level than Jamal has had. And whether he's been adjusted to the NBA level or not yet just remains to be seen. And maybe that just takes time. Maybe that's going to take more ramp up for a player like that. This is a situation where I have zero idea, whether it's fine to bring him back for these playoffs or whether to just hold off. And if time is actually going to solve that problem, like you said, I got nothing, man. Do I think the Nuggets are better when he's out there? Yeah, I do. And I think that if he's healthy and if he's medically cleared, then he should probably play. But I don't think that either of those things are true right now. And until they get either anywhere close to that, then you're probably just going to have to wait until next year.
Let's take a break. We'll come back, and I'm gonna press Ryan on the experience of covering this Nuggets team and where this team is at and how this team feels versus how it is. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I want to tell you about Built Bar, because it's Built Bar and it's amazing. Have you tried the puffs from Built Bar? Because it's a protein-infused marshmallow. How incredible is that? Science, what can it do? They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They're a fan favorite with some incredible flavors like churro and coconut marshmallow and banana cream pie. Everything's so good. They're going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, including the puffs. They're all low calorie and high protein. You replace your candy bars with those because they're way better, as a typical candy bar has got anywhere from 200 to 300 calories, while most Built Bars contain just 130 calories. They've also only got 4 grams of sugar and 4 grams of net carbs, along with 17 grams of protein. You got mint brownie. Everyone knows that's my favorite. Coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They are all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It'll be delicious and good for you. Check it out at built.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen each and every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Here with Ryan Blackburn from DenverStiffs.com and the Pickaxe and Roll podcast. Okay, I got a couple ones for you. Here we go, Ryan. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, first one. The Denver Nuggets are the third best shooting team in the league. They are third in effective field goal percentage. Does it feel like they are the third best effective field goal percentage shooting team in the league to you?
Not even close. And I think one of the reasons for that is because they really struggle in every other category, right? Like when you're looking at the 4-factor stuff, you're looking at offensive rebounding. Well, they've been down. Free throw rate, they really suck at that. Getting to the free throw line, that was one of the 4 factors I just listed. Offensive and turnovers. They also struggle with turnovers, or they're kind of middle of the pack if I'm not mistaken. So the one that actually really props up their offense is the effective field goal percentage, which is kind of nuts because it just either feels like it's either a successful possession or it's not, but that's just the way that they usually get it. And they've actually been really good in that category. And I've been on this for a long time. Like I've been posting about this for years, that you have to be a top 5 effective field goal percentage team to win a title. And the only team in the last 10 years that hasn't done that is the Lakers from the bubble. Like that feels like a pretty strong indicator.
They are 12th in 3-point percentage, which I would imagine also you simply do not believe, given that you feel like this is basically Joker and a team of, I don't know, drunken penguins with basketball catapults on their heads is the way that sometimes I feel reading your tweets that's how you consider this team.
I feel like, yeah, you are definitely taking a torch right under my seat right now. Welcome
to the show, man. Thanks for coming on. Help me out on Saturday.
Yeah, really, really appreciate taking away my free Saturday. No, I definitely think that, look, Denver's one of the best 2-point percentage teams in the NBA. They get a lot of their margin by being an elite 2-point percentage team. And the 3-point percentage has crept up. One of the reasons for that, you're playing Zeke Naji more. You're playing a guy who is spacing the floor pretty consistently with that second unit, and he's been playing more minutes for sure. Another one of the reasons is because Monte Morris and Will Barton have actually been 37% guys. And it hasn't felt like that for much of the year because, actually, Monte, it definitely has felt like that. For Will, sometimes it feels like he's either 4 for 5 or 1 for 5, but it's actually averaged out to a really solid score. And Jeff Green doesn't take a ton of threes, even though he's not shooting it that well. He doesn't take a ton of them overall. Jokic is up to 37 or so. And you just get a number of guys that can do everything and that just shoot it above average. And then you get an above average shooting team. Feels like it.
Austin Rivers is 35%, which is perfectly decent. Bones Highland's at 35%. That's perfectly decent. They added Bryn Forbes, who's 43%. That's great. He's been exactly what they wanted when they acquired him. So, is this team better offensively than maybe it feels like sometimes?
Without a doubt. Like there's no doubts that if they had another couple of stars on top of them, this would be a no doubt top 3 offensive team with the way the Joker's playing, with the way that everything has gone. Like they have the foundation in place with an MVP candidate right now and some pretty solid shooting around him. Imagine if they added 2 elite shooters on top of that can also do some other things. Like some of the bench minutes that I think they've really struggled with over the course of these last couple months or the entire season would not be as bad. They would be mitigated just a little bit because you can stagger a little bit more for sure. I think this team has top 3 offensive talent for sure. And they've got the shooting talent. That was never a question of mine, I don't think. It was always more of a defensive question. And we'll probably get there, I know. But shooting wise, no, this team is solid.
Let's see. Since January 1st, they are 3rd in offensive rating.
Yep.
So the reason I kind of bring this up is just, and like Adam and I've talked about this, and I think it's a fascinating question to kind of unpack about why this season feels so much worse than it is. Like, I think Nuggets fans have generally been unhappy. I think most of the Nuggets coverage has been generally pretty frustrated in its tone. That's not like directly a thing at you. I think it's been like Adam and me and really everybody except for Singer, who's like down the line because he's the beat writer, and Katie because Katie's Katie, right? So like in general, I think that there has been kind of this perception that the Nuggets are really kind of a mess and not a good team, and especially like it's been frustrating for me in games like the Warriors game. Like Jokic was the reason they won that game. The way that the best player on the floor is usually the reason that a team wins in the NBA, but if it was just Joker, they still would not have been able to pull that off. Right. And they got contributions. And so I do kind of think like, as we step back at the All-Star break, which is not the midway point of the season, we have a little bit more of a sense of where this team is because we've got more games on it. Like they are at the All-Star break, 33-25, 8 games over 500. They are 3 games back of the 4th seed, a game back of the 5th seed. They've got one of the better net ratings despite all of the injuries. I think this is a pretty good team, not just Joker. I think it's I especially don't think it's just like, well, it's Joker and then like Bones and Zeke because it's the young guys. Like I think everybody's kind of played pretty well this season. I think JaMychal's played badly. I think Campazzo's played badly. And I think Will's played badly over the last 2 months. I think it's been a rough couple of months for him, which I said when he was having to log those heavy minutes when they were shorthanded, I was trying to tell everybody, I was like, this is going to come back and bite them. Right. Because Will's going to get worn down. And now everybody's like, God, why can't Will Barton do anything? And I'm like, because he was carrying you in those early parts of the season when those games mattered. Do you kind of agree that like this team is, well, let me ask you that question. Do you think this team in terms of like who it actually is closer to the numbers or closer to how it feels watching them? Which do you think is closer to reality?
I think they both play a part, to be frank, because I think the overarching cloud that is the injury situation is always going to be there. As well as they shoot in a situation where they've played a much easier schedule since January 1st, as much better as things generally feel now, given that they finally have a really good vibes win going into the All-Star break against Golden State. There are some things that I think over the general malaise should be valued more. I think the numbers, like you said, should be valued more. I think this is an above average team. I think this is a good team. I think this is a group that has met its ceiling a little bit, because when you talk, like I've mentioned this on my pod before, you talk about talent ceilings. I've talked about the below 500 versus above 500 records, where Denver does so well against the below 500 teams, where you take care of business against the bad teams, which means you're probably a cut above those guys. And then you're really struggling against some of the above 500 teams, where you're probably a cut below. And usually the teams that are in those situations are good teams, not great teams. And I tend to think that that's where Denver falls. They have an MVP candidate, the best player in the world, who is carrying a lot on his shoulders. And then the players that generally support him are a rotating cast of characters. And I think Aaron Gordon has cemented himself as a guy who's out there permanently. I think that Monte Morris is actually a guy who's cemented himself as a permanent guy. I think that Will was more staggered towards the beginning of the year and then tired out towards the end of the All-Star break. We'll see what he looks like coming out of it. But I do think that between those four specifically, Jokic, Gordon, Morris, Barton, and then you get some rotating role players in there too. You can add Jeff Green in there, I guess, as well. Then you've got a good team. I don't know if it's a great team, and I think categorizing it as anything like that would be wrong. But I think you've got a good team.
Okay. Do you think that if you add Jamal back, it's a great team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think if you think otherwise, then it's more a reflection of where Jamal is at. Because what this team needs is kind of another pillar offensively where they can rely upon for scoring and playmaking when Jokic is either off the floor or he has a really tough matchup where teams can just overload on him. Because if you overload on Joker, then sometimes Denver doesn't have the counters to get through that against the best teams in the world. I think that a healthy Murray gives you that. Does an injured Murray, does a guy who's just working his way back off of ACL surgery? I don't know, but we got to cross that bridge when we come to it, and we'll just have to see.
You were really hammering on them for wanting them to get a wing at the trade deadline. You wanted them to get a wing. I do kind of wonder this. If you face a team where you need them, isn't having Jeff Green and Aaron Gordon enough? Like, I kind of think that's probably enough. Jeff's a really good defender when he cares. Like when it's the playoffs, Jeff Green is pretty good. He's a pretty good wing defender. And Aaron's shown that you can put him on guys like Dame, right? So like the issue is just essentially like the Suns. Like it's just the Suns.
Yeah, so when I say wing defender most of the time, what I'm really meaning is a 3-and-D guard that plays off ball on the wing offensively, but then can defend those point guards and shooting guards defensively and really match up with them from a quickness perspective. Because I think one of the things that we've seen Gordon struggle with, Jeff Green struggle with, is the 6'2", 6'3" guys that can get to their spots quicker than those guys can really match. And if they get into the pick and roll with a guy like Jokic, he's not going to be able to save them from one misstep, from a half step being behind the play. A guy like a Justin Holiday or a Drew Holiday or somebody of that nature would have been able to close the gap, I think, a little bit more against those smaller guards, because you're going to face a lot of them. You're going to face John Morant, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Steph Curry. There's just so many guys and different variations of that player that I think having another option that you trust makes a lot of sense. Now, let me say this. I said this back when Austin Rivers was struggling. I think that Austin Rivers can be really valuable in a playoff series like that because he can do those things and he's a smart defender and knows what he's doing and just isn't going to screw up coverages. And if he is, then that's a problem. But for the most part, he's been really good on the defensive end this year, and I've been really impressed, especially lately. So perhaps I underrated Austin Rivers and what he could do a little bit as a defensive option, but I tend to think that he's more like kind of a low ceiling defender than somebody who you could probably trade for that's a little bit more talented and physical on that end. But
yeah, but
I don't know.
You're not trading for anybody that's going to shut down John Morant or Donovan Mitchell.
Exactly.
And like the Nuggets have won playoff series with those guys kind of going nuclear. Like that's part of the thing is like I like their scheme if Joker's not completely dead, exhausted, playing at the level. Like honestly, that to me still seems like a formula that can work versus the Suns. I don't know what went into the decision making. I assume it's Joker was exhausted, was like, I can't play at the level. I got to do too much. I'm too tired. And if that's the case, like, I'm still worried about this year because he's still, that's been a heavy weight on him. But, like, you blitz CP3, you get the ball, because this is what the Bucks did. You blitz CP3, you get the ball out of his hands, and you go to Devin Booker and you say, you're going to have to beat us. You are going to have to beat us. And you're going to have to do it versus a top flight defender. You don't give the switch. And they won't have MPJ, I don't think, even if he plays, won't be, will probably be coming off the bench even in those situations, given his back situation. And if he doesn't, maybe he doesn't play as much in that series. But like versus the other ones, I just don't look at, I don't know that there's anybody else in the West that I look at and go, you really need a wing to attack this team to handle your own defensively. Like, with Curry, it's just like, hey, I'm going to need you to throw yourself through 800 screens and you're going to be bruised and miserable the entire time and you're going to get scored on. And that's what happens because it's Steph Curry. That's how it goes in the league. Or you just switch everything, right?
Right. And Rivers really impressed me in both of those matchups. Like I want to make this clear that he earned a lot of like credit for the first Golden State matchup where Denver didn't have Monte or Aaron Gordon. They started Austin Rivers and he chased around Steph Curry for a lot of that time. And they held them to 85 points. There was a lot of injuries there, but whatever. In this next one, Steph had a lot of games where he got to inside the arc and did really well, but he didn't go off from three. And that kept Denver in it and it allowed them to make a comeback. And I think that there's also something to that in a playoff series if he meets Steph Curry. So I do think that Austin Rivers, perhaps if he's not being asked to do too much offensively, perhaps if Jamal Murray comes back and you have him as another option to maybe chase around Chris Paul. But I do think that's you can figure out some different defensive combinations to put yourself into a position where the offense can carry you after that. But it's going to have to be the offense doing the heavy lifting now with this roster, because I don't think that they have the defensive horses to really shut down an attack like the Suns or an attack like Memphis. It's going to have to be mostly offensive, in my opinion.
We've thought that before with worse defensive rosters. Like, I got to be real clear on this. This roster is way better defensively than the team in 2018-19. And I would say overall, probably better than 1920. Like, I don't know that Jeremy was that good. He was really great in the series that he played in, right? Like, he had great series in those. The 2018-19 team, like, there's no question. That team was not good defensively.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
Right. And so on this team, you do have Aaron Gordon. You do have Joker, who's a much better defender now. You do have Monte, who's honestly a not good defender, but a better defender now. Will gets, I think, rightly, a lot of grief for his defense. I just kind of think that in the playoffs, it changes the equation a little bit. And again, like my whole thing is just they've figured out the answers to these defensive problems. I don't see any team being so much better than what they faced in 18-19 or 19-20. Where it's like, oh, they don't have the personnel. I don't see that.
I do think that's like Tim says in the comments that I think Gary over Barton, I think is a real defensive upgrade that some of those teams have. And Barton's going to have to prove it to me. Like he just has not proven it in a playoff series yet. And until he does that, then I'm still going to have some questions. And I think they're completely legitimate, completely fair.
But Will hasn't failed in a playoff series yet.
True. So maybe if you're going to take the positive view versus my Eeyore negative view, then I think that there's something there, Matt. Like that's absolutely something that we could definitely argue. But what I will say is that in retrospect, the addition of Bryn Forbes was good for getting them through the regular season. Is that going to help them through the playoffs? Like there are some things that Bryn could do bringing off the bench that I think he could really help with, but there's going to also be some negatives to that, as we've seen with Bryn throughout his years in a playoff series. And so if you're also playing Bones Highland, if you're trying to play Facu at various points, like there are always going to be potential weaknesses to pick on defensively.
Yeah, I mean, but come on, like, Jamal MPJ come back. That's 5. Okay. Monte is 6. Jeff Green 7.
I think I go Austin Rivers.
Austin Rivers 8.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
8 minutes of Boogie.
Yeah, that's
play
fine.
Play Joker 40.
Could also go minutes. Zeke too.
Yeah, if you want to lose, that's the thing. That's the thing you can do. I'm sorry. The belief in Zeke is a little bit much from everybody. Like Zeke is still very
Why?
Adam has said that he's a very good wing defender, and he is. I think you can switch him. That's an advantage, right? Like you can play Zeke and switch.
Yeah.
And I think I'm trying to think who that's valuable against. No one. There's no one in the West you can do. Like you really can't. Like maybe Dallas. Dallas is like the only team I think you can probably switch with the bench unit against. Right?
It would have been the Clippers, probably.
Yeah, when the Clippers try and go small, but the Clippers aren't going to do that. The Clippers are mostly going to try and win with Zoo. Like they have tipped their hand on that. They are absolutely going to do that. Sean says Golden State or Phoenix. I do not think you want to be playing Zeke Naji in switch situations versus Golden State. That's maybe versus the bench, it'll be okay. Like he could play versus Bielitsa. Like that'd be all right. But
like if Andrew Wiggins goes at him, I'm not really worried about that. Like what are we doing here if he can't guard Andrew Wiggins? Like I think that
can we? Oh, I want this to happen now. I want this to happen. This is what I want now. Is for the Nuggets to play the Golden State, and then I'm going to be wanting to bet Ryan every single game on Zeke on how many points Andrew Wiggins will score on Zeke Naji. This will be great.
Because we're gonna have so many side bets going into these playoffs, and I'm gonna take the negative end of it, and Matt's gonna take the positive end of it, where Denver just runs the table, and it's gonna be a lot of fun, and we're gonna enjoy ourselves. It's gonna be fantastic.
I have come around to the idea of just they can't beat Phoenix. I can't see any scenario they beat Phoenix. Like unless they were literally just like, we're not winning the series, let's not tip our hand last year, which would have been a very galaxy brain move that I can't believe that they would do. Like, do I want to see Phoenix have to defend with Jamal? Yes. Is Chris Paul? Is the Chris Paul injury that has kind of like he was in a cast and said he could miss some time? Does that pique my interest? Yes, that does. Like that seems notable. I think Phoenix is a concern, but like Golden State, I still like that matchup for them. I just do. And Memphis beat them this year in impressive fashion. I still don't quite trust Memphis in a playoff series. I feel like that could get. I love watching Memphis. They're the most fun team in the league, but man,
there's a lot of 18-19 Nuggets vibes with them.
Yeah.
Where they're just probably a year too early in terms of legitimately competing, despite the fact that they win a bunch of games. Like they're fun. Like I also like the way that they theoretically match up with a lot of these teams, Memphis, because I think D'Anthony Melton is a real nice chess piece against some of these groups. Desmond Bane, obviously, you play him anywhere and he's going to be great. And then Jaren Jackson sliding to the 5 is going to be really fun. But whatever the case may be, I do think that Denver has a legitimate chance to advance within these playoffs. I think if you run up against Memphis or Golden State or Dallas or Utah, then I still think Denver has a fighting chance in that as long as Jamal Murray's there. Even if he's not, like there are a couple teams there that like Utah or Dallas, I'd feel fine about. But once you get up to Phoenix or even Golden State or Memphis, like you need Jamal back for those games. And if you don't have him, then it's going to be really tough.
What have you enjoyed the most about this season? What's been the thing that you've enjoyed most about covering? I'm not just tweaking you. I am literally asking you because I'm sure there are things.
No,
I
know. I know it is funny.
Okay, it's not helpful that you can't think of anything.
Why do I have to think about this so hard? So here's what I will say. I really have enjoyed the way that Nikola Jokic has defended his MVP title. Like I think that his ability to just say Inat and just run through the brick wall every single time, every single game has been really, really impressive. And there are players that would have shut it down or maybe not worked as hard in these situations, waiting for their star cast to come back. And he hasn't done that. He's just worked as hard as he possibly can. And it gives me a newfound respect for him, where it isn't just about having your best buddy there. It isn't just about having the best talent there. It's about, hey, how can I win with the guys that we do have? And what can we do to be even better? And he has been even better. The net rating with their starters has been even better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really strong indicator for the player that he is, as well as the supporting cast that the Nuggets have built around him. So there's been a lot of really good signs, man. And like, it's going to probably hit a hard ceiling if they don't get back their best talent, but it has been nice and very vindicating for Jokic believers for sure that he is this caliber of player. He is this dude.
Sean brought up AG in the comments, and I wanted to touch on him too, because I don't feel like he's gotten as much credit as I think he deserves.
Right.
For what he's done this season. I just think that AG's been tremendous. And like, look, the numbers are not incredible, right? Like they're just not. They're not insane, but I just feel like he's done so much to help them win. And he's shown a lot and he continues to sacrifice. And I just feel like Aaron Gordon has had a really great season that no one's noticed because of everyone's looking for somebody to go out and put up 25 next to Joker.
I've been doing this project on rotations. I keep the rotations. I'm the rotation guy. And so I've done this visualization that has helped me visualize just how much time a player has spent on the court at various times and at various positions. And so he spent about 58% of his minutes at small forward this year. And when I think about that, when I think about the kind of player that he's developed into, he's worked perfectly with Jokic. And it hasn't been perfect all the time, but he's growing into this level of floor spacer that can do both the inside and outside thing, where he goes up top, he hits the off the dribble three, he can run the DHOs, he can run pick and rolls, he can do just so many different things that I think being in town has really unlocked his game, but also he's just a better player than he showed in other spots, and they've been able to get out the very, very best in him. And it's been really fun. It's been really cool.
How much are you going to argue about Jokic MVP over the next month and a half?
I've been suckered into it a lot lately. I think it's tough. Like, I've also said that Embiid has, like, what he's doing is equally spectacular. And I use the word equal there, knowing that Jokic has had better stats, but there are some things that some of the stats just can't really quantify in the best, most effective way possible. And I think that what Embiid does visually is going to be a lot more visceral than what Jokic does on a consistent basis. And as he continues to have the pull-up fadeaways and whatnots, and if Giannis continues dunking on people and get 50, if they continue to go on the run the Bucks do, then it's going to be anybody's race. And right now, apparently, it's Embiid's. And do I think it should be Embiid's race? No, I don't. But I also feel vindicated in my belief for Jokic. I don't feel like I have to argue about it with other people. I know that he won an MVP, and I know that he can be the best player on a championship team. And anybody that tells me differently can just go walk outside. Like I don't need to hear from anybody else. He's already there. He's clear. There is no reason to argue about it anymore, other than the fact that if you want the back-to-back MVP designation that so few people have, then there are only a very few amounts of players in NBA history that have ever been able to do that. And I think that Jokic is that caliber of player. And so if you're looking for that, Nuggets fans, and if he continues to go on a run and you get 50 plus wins, then he probably does deserve it. But I am not going to torch my mentions again. I've already experienced that once this year, and it's just painful.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad. I mean, I have to. I have to.
Yes, you do.
Covering MVP is like my favorite thing. And so I have to cover this whole thing, and I'm just dreading it because there's no discussion. It's just Philadelphia fans, and it's going to be, I've been dreading it, and it's going to continue to be a thing. And, I think the way I've often put it in these terms is the best way for you to kind of determine who's in the race is like should be a bar for you for who's worthy of MVP, like who's at that level, like whose performance has felt like an MVP. And I think that there's a lot of people really freaked out about the ESPN graphic because they're like, where's DeMar? DeMar, I think, has been amazing. I'm not sure that DeMar feels like an MVP to me. Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid all feel like MVPs to me. Like they have had MVP deserving seasons. It's about who's going to wind up having the most deserving. It's going to be interesting. I keep trying to find some sort of angle where I can be like, okay, this is like the argument for Embiid, and I can believe this. And it's just like, he scores a lot of points. Boy, those points per game that he scores are wow, with the points per game that Embiid and I it's tough. It's real tough.
Can we talk about the defensive rating thing? Like, why is Philly not as good of a defense when Embiid's out there? Or at least it's very close. Like, there seems to be this significant difference of defensive belief that Jokic is a much worse defender than Embiid. And I know he doesn't block as many shots. I know that sometimes he can get beat to the rim a couple times. But I think that's within the grand scheme of a full game.
Here's the thing. Embiid's not switching either.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's dropping. He's doing the easy stuff. He's not doing hard things defensively right now unless he's on Giannis.
They when they switched him in the Celtics game, and Jason Tatum took him to church. Like, so, man, like, and I'm not mad about that. Like, that doesn't mean that Embiid's not a good defender. No center in the league does that. Rudy Gobert doesn't.
I just can't wait until March 14th when we hear about the toe soreness and how that's going to.
Maybe. I kind of got a feeling he's gonna like make his whole season about that game. Like, I could see, like, I think he's gonna bring so much more to that matchup than Joker is.
Jokic is gonna be like, brother, we're just playing basketball. Like,
no, he's gonna Joker's gonna be like, it's March 14th. I played in 70 of these things. What are you doing? Like, we're a month from the play. What? We're not in the same conference. Like, what are you doing? And yeah, so
I love him so much. It's going to be the Clippers game all over again, where one team just brings the absolute intensity, and James Harden's trying to throw the ball between Jokic's legs, and Embiid is then trying to dunk it on Jokic retroactively, despite him not being in the play. It's going to be a loud, obnoxious, crazy environment. Do you think they boo Jokic that entire game in Philly?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe.
That'll be fun. That'll be really fun. Denver will probably lose by 5. Jokic will probably have a strong game, and then Embiid will have 38 points and crown himself.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get wrap it up. Thanks, Ryan, for coming on, buddy. Check out Ryan's podcast over at Pickaxe and Roll, and check out all the great stuff at denverstiffs.com. It is the best place for you to get your Nuggets coverage outside of DNVR, because it's DNVR. They're both equally great. I don't know. I have to plug everyone. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at Blackburn NBA. Am I right on that?
NBA Blackburn.
I'm so close. At NBA Blackburn. I'll be back tomorrow, getting you guys set for the week. I think Adam's still out on Sunday, but I'll be back for a World's Finest on Monday. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for joining us in the comments. Check out the YouTube page. Hit that subscribe and like button. Thanks for joining me, Ryan. And we'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.
Thanks, my friend.